When I picked up the phone to ask my son Michael when his wedding would be, my daughter-in-law Rebecca looked me straight in the eye and said with a chilling smile, "Oh, we already got married yesterday. We only invited special people." The words hit me like a sledgehammer. Special people. I, who for 3 years had paid their monthly rent of $500, bought every piece of furniture in their apartment, and filled their refrigerator when they had nothing to eat. I was not a special person. I stood there in my living room, gripping the phone as if it weighed 1,000 pounds, watching my son avoid my gaze while Rebecca made herself comfortable on the couch I had purchased for them just 6 months ago. The navy blue dress I had picked out for their wedding hung uselessly in my closet, along with new shoes, and the illusion of being part of the most important day of my only son's life. For weeks, I had planned every detail. I had set aside money to give them $1,000 as a wedding gift. I had called my sister Patricia in Denver to share the good news. I had cleaned my house from top to bottom, thinking they might come celebrate with me after the ceremony. All of that crumbled in seconds with those 4 poisoned words, "Only special people." Michael finally lifted his gaze and said in a rehearsed voice, "Mom, it was an intimate thing, very small, just the 2 of us and witnesses." But I knew it was a lie. Later that evening, I saw the photos on social media. Rebecca's parents proudly posing next to the bride and groom, her siblings toasting with champagne. Rebecca's white dress, which I had helped finance with the $800 I had given her last month for personal expenses. I saw everything I wasn't supposed to see, and something inside me, something that had been dormant for far too long, finally awakened. A week later, exactly 7 days after that humiliation, Rebecca called me with a completely different voice. She was no longer the confident woman who had excluded me from her wedding. Now she sounded desperate, almost pleading. "Margaret, the rent is overdue," she said, her voice trembling. "The landlord is pressuring us and says if we don't pay this week, he'll evict us. You forgot to make the transfer." I remained silent for several seconds, remembering all the times I had rushed to the bank to make that transfer. All the times I had canceled my own plans to ensure they had a roof over their heads. All the times I had eaten rice and beans so I could give them money for their desires. And now, after they had excluded me from the most important moment of their lives, they had the audacity to call me as if nothing had happened. "Rebecca," I said with a calm that surprised even me, "didn't I warn you that I only help special people?" The silence on the other end was so deep I could hear my own heartbeat. For the first time in years, it wasn't I who was trembling, but her. "Margaret, I don't understand," she stammered. "We were always special to you. You're like a second mom to me." Lies, all lies wrapped in that sweet voice she only used when she needed something. The same voice she had used to ask me for money for the wedding dress, for the honeymoon, for the rings, which I had helped finance without knowing I would never see the ceremony where they were exchanged. That night after hanging up, I sat on my bed and cried, but they weren't tears of sadness. They were tears of anger, of accumulated frustration, of years of silently endured humiliation. When I woke the next morning, something inside me had fundamentally changed. I looked in the bathroom mirror, same tired eyes, same wrinkles telling stories of giving love without getting it back. But there was something else now, a determination that had been buried under years of compliance. I sat at my kitchen table where I had so often planned surprises for them, counted bills for their expenses, and cried silently when they treated me with indifference. Now, this table would witness something completely different. I took out my checkbook, my bank statements, and started doing the math. I wanted to see in exact numbers the extent of my own foolishness. Monthly rent of $500 multiplied by 36 months equaled $18,000. Food and supplies, approximately $200 monthly, was another $7,200. Birthday gifts, Christmas presents, anniversary gifts, at least $3,000. Rebecca's medical emergencies, $800. The car loan they never paid back $2,500. The air conditioner repair in their apartment $600. The living room furniture $1,200. $33,400. That was the exact sum of my generosity. Money taken from my husband's inheritance, from my pension, from savings I had put aside penny by penny through decades of honest work. The phone rang and I saw Michael's name on the screen. Normally, my heart would have pounded as I ran to answer, hoping he would finally apologize. This time I let it ring. Then Rebecca called. I let that ring too. A text came from Michael. "Mom, please answer. We need to talk." I deleted the message without replying. At 2 in the afternoon, I decided to go to the bank. Mr. Harrison, the branch manager, had known me for years. He had processed every transfer to Michael and Rebecca, watched my account drain month after month to fill theirs. "Mr. Harrison," I told him, "I need to cancel all automatic transfers." He looked surprised. "Are you sure, Mrs. Thompson? Did something happen?" What happened is that I finally opened my eyes. I want to cancel everything, and I also want information on protecting my accounts. I don't want anyone else having access to my money. As Mr. Harrison processed the cancellations, my phone didn't stop buzzing. Michael, Rebecca, Michael again. It was as if they had developed radar to detect when their income source was in danger. When I got home from the bank, I found 3 cars parked in front of my house. Michael's, Rebecca's, and one I didn't recognize. Through the windows, I could see movement inside my house. My blood ran cold. They had keys because I had trusted them. I took a deep breath before opening the door. Michael sat on my sofa with his head in his hands. Rebecca paced like a caged animal, and an older man I didn't recognize was going through papers on my dining table. My papers, my personal documents. "What is happening here?" I asked in a voice louder than I expected. All 3 looked at me, as if I were the intruder in my own home. Rebecca spoke first, her voice desperate. "Margaret, thank God you're here. We need to talk. Mr. Davidson is from the law firm we consulted about your situation." "My situation? What situation? I'm doing perfectly fine." Michael finally lifted his head. "Mom, we went to the bank. They told us you canceled all transfers. Mr. Harrison said you blocked our access to your accounts. We don't understand." Mr. Davidson, a man in his 50s with a smile that didn't inspire confidence, approached with an outstretched hand. "Mrs. Thompson, I'm a family law attorney. Your children are concerned about your mental well-being and asked me to assess the situation." I didn't shake his hand. Instead, I went directly to my dining table and collected all my documents. "These are my private papers. You have no right to look at them without my consent." "Mom," Michael interjected with that condescending voice he'd perfected recently, "we're worried about you. Your behavior has been strange. First, you cut us off financially without explanation. Then you don't answer our calls. We think you might need professional help." Rebecca approached, trying to take my hand with fake tenderness. "Margaret, honey, we know you're under stress. Maybe the loneliness is affecting you. At your age, episodes of confusion are normal." The word confusion echoed in my head like an alarm. Now I understood. They weren't trying to help me. They wanted to declare me mentally incompetent and take control of my finances. "Get out," I said, pointing to the door. "All 3 of you leave my house immediately." Michael stood up with that angry face he made when he didn't get his way. "Mom, we can't just leave. We have obligations, the rent, car payments, the credit card you co-signed for." "I can and I will," my voice rose. "For years, I've paid rent that wasn't even in my name. I filled a refrigerator in a house where I wasn't welcome. I financed a life that clearly had no place for me." Mr. Davidson pulled a folder from his briefcase. "Mrs. Thompson, we've prepared documents that could facilitate this transition. A power of attorney allowing Michael and Rebecca to manage your finances more efficiently. Just temporary, until you feel better. I took the folder and, without opening it, threw it directly into the trash. Rebecca started crying, not tears of sadness but frustration and rage. "You can't do this to us, Margaret. We were counting on you. We made plans based on your support." "Plans based on my money," I replied. "Not on my well-being, not on my happiness, not on my company, just on my money." Before leaving, Michael turned one last time. "Mom, this is going to end badly for you. You'll end up alone with no one to care for you when you really need it." "Michael," I said with deep sadness but crystalline clarity, "I'm already alone. The difference is now it's by my own choice, not by your neglect." After they left, I immediately called Mr. Walker, an attorney I'd met years ago when handling my husband's will. Unlike Davidson, Mr. Walker specialized in protecting elderly rights. "Mrs. Thompson," he said after I explained the situation, "what your children tried is elder financial abuse, a federal crime. The fact they entered your house without permission and reviewed private documents is also a violation." We spent 3 hours reviewing my financial records. Mr. Walker whistled when he saw the total. "With this money, you could have lived comfortably, traveled, enjoyed retirement. Instead, you completely financed 2 adults who didn't respect you enough to invite you to their wedding." The next morning, Ethan from the hardware store came to change all my locks and install a security system with cameras. While he worked, my phone rang constantly from unknown numbers, Rebecca trying different phones since I'd blocked her number. That afternoon, my doorbell rang. The cameras showed a well-dressed young woman with a folder and professional smile. "Mrs. Thompson," she said when I opened the door, "I'm Ms. Rodriguez, a social investigator from the Office of Senior Services. We've received a report that you may be in an at-risk situation and need to conduct a wellness check." My blood ran cold. Michael and Rebecca had escalated. They'd involved the government. "Can I see your identification?" I asked, trying to stay calm. After verifying her credentials, I let her in, knowing refusal would look worse. "Mrs. Thompson, we've received reports of significant changes in your financial behavior, cutting off family communication, and showing signs of paranoia by installing unnecessary security systems." Every word had been carefully chosen to paint me as mentally disturbed. I recognized Rebecca's manipulation in the wording. "Ms. Rodriguez, I'm calling my lawyer before answering any questions." Mr. Walker arrived within 20 minutes. When he saw the social worker, his expression hardened. "Ms. Rodriguez, I hope you have a court order, because my client is under legal representation, and any unauthorized investigation constitutes harassment." He placed a folder on the table. "Here's complete documentation of my client's financial and emotional abuse. $33,400 withdrawn from her accounts in 3 years. Systematic social exclusion, emotional blackmail. If someone needs investigation here, it's not my client." Ms. Rodriguez reviewed the documents with growing discomfort. After asking me several questions about my financial management, living situation, and health, all of which I answered clearly and competently, she closed her folder. "Mrs. Thompson, based on this conversation and documentation, I see no indication you're at risk or need intervention. I'll close this case." After she left, Mr. Walker warned me, "This will likely escalate. They're spending money they don't have trying to have you declared incompetent." 3 weeks later came the trial. I woke early, put on my best black suit, and looked in the mirror with determination I'd never felt before. Today wouldn't just judge my mental capacity. It would judge my dignity, my right to live free from abuse, my value beyond my bank account. The courthouse hallway was tense. Michael wore a new suit probably bought for the occasion. Rebecca dressed in black as if attending a funeral. Perhaps it was one, the funeral of our family relationship. Their lawyer, An older man with the confidence of someone who'd won similar cases began his opening statement. He portrayed me as a confused elderly woman manipulated by strangers to alienate her from her loving family. "Your Honor," he said solemnly, "Mrs. Thompson has shown clear mental decline. She's cut off financial support without rational explanation, installed unnecessary security systems due to paranoia, and isolated herself from loved ones." Then came their witnesses. Rebecca testified first, crying as she described how I'd completely changed, become hostile and paranoid. Her performance was Oscar-worthy. When Mr. Walker cross-examined her, cracks appeared. "Mrs. Thompson, when was the last time you called my client without asking for money?" Rebecca stammered, "We always talked about many things." "Can you give a specific date?" Silence. "Is it true you told my client she wasn't special enough to attend your wedding?" Rebecca's face reddened. Those words were taken out of context. "What context makes telling your mother-in-law she's not special acceptable?" Michael testified next. Seeing him swear to tell the truth while preparing to lie about my mental health was excruciating. This was the boy I'd raised alone, dedicated my life to. Under cross-examination, Mr. Walker asked, "How much money have you received from your mother in 3 years?" "I don't know exactly." "Does $33,400 sound right?" The silence was deafening. When it was our turn, Mr. Walker called witnesses who testified to my mental competence. The bank manager, my neighbors, even the pharmacist Rebecca had tried to manipulate into giving false testimony. Finally, I took the stand. I told my whole story: the money spent, the wedding humiliation, the constant manipulation, the privacy violations, the legal threats. "Why did you stop supporting your son and daughter-in-law?" Mr. Walker asked. "Because I finally understood I wasn't receiving love. It was a commercial transaction disguised as family. My money was welcome, but I as a person was not." Judge Miller retired to deliberate for 2 hours that felt like 2 years. When he returned, his expression was serious but clear. "After reviewing all evidence," he began, "it's obvious Mrs. Margaret Thompson is in full possession of her mental faculties. Professional psychiatric evaluations confirm her cognitive competence. Her financial decisions, however painful for her family, are completely rational and within her rights." My heart raced as he continued. "Furthermore, evidence suggests this lawsuit is motivated by financial interest rather than genuine concern for Mrs. Thompson's well-being. The court completely denies the request for guardianship." I had won. Not just the lawsuit, but my freedom, my dignity, my right to live free from those who supposedly loved me. Outside the courthouse, I saw Michael and Rebecca arguing with their lawyer. Rebecca shot me a look of pure hatred before walking away. Michael looked at me one last time, and for a second I saw what might have been regret, but it was too late. That evening, my neighbor Alina organized a celebration with friends from her garden club. We toasted to justice, to freedom, to the sisterhood of women who support each other. "Margaret," Alina said, raising her glass, "today you didn't just win a trial, you won back your life." 3 months later, I sold my house and moved to a beautiful apartment downtown. I donated half my money to organizations protecting elderly from family abuse. With the other half, I began living the life I'd always wanted. I traveled through Europe, took art classes, joined volunteer groups. I learned to paint again, something I'd loved before becoming Michael and Rebecca's personal financier. I never heard from them again. Through others, I learned they had to downsize their apartment, and Rebecca found a job for the first time in years. Perhaps adversity would teach them what my generosity never could: the value of honest work and independence. Some nights, looking at stars from my new balcony, I think about the woman I was a year ago, fearful, manipulated, believing I had to buy love. That woman is gone. In her place stands someone who understands a fundamental truth. Genuine love never has a price, and freedom is never too expensive. My name is Margaret Thompson. I'm 72 years old, and I've finally learned that the most important person I need to love and protect is myself.